Welcome to the Mindset Coach podcast, brought to you by the Mindset Coach Academy. I'm Lara Young, your host and Master Certified Coach. Whether you're a seasoned coach or just starting your coaching career, this podcast is your go-to resource for all things mindset, coaching, and personal development. Each week, we bring you expert insights, practical strategies, and inspirational stories to help you become the best coach you can be. Our guests range from leading industry professionals to successful mindset coaches who share their secrets for creating lasting change. Plus, I'll be answering your burning questions and sharing tips from our ICF and multi-accredited Mindset Coach certification program. So, if you're ready to elevate your coaching game, stay tuned and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to this week's episode, AI and the Future of Coaching. So a key question that we're going to explore in today's episode is, what role will you play as a coach when the barriers between human consciousness and artificial intelligence dissolve? The core idea here is that AI is not replacing coaches. We're actually entering an era where coaches who understand how to engage with intelligence, both artificial and human, will create transformational impact like never before. And we're starting to see a real explosion in intelligence. So there've been, I think, 5 key waves, or there's waves that are coming in terms of AI in coaching. And wave 1 has really been AI as a tool, and that started around 2020 and has gone until around about 2023. And most coaches are still in this space where we have chatbots, we have agents, prompt engineering, we have automated scheduling, note-taking. People are using AI, ChatGPT, Claude, etc., to help them with their marketing, their offer creation, niching down in their coaching focus. And now we have AI as a partner. So this is really 2024, 2025. And what we've seen is a shift from simple AI to more complex reasoning models. And what that's enabled us to do as coaches is to have that real-time coaching enhancement. And we're now starting to see the emergence of things like ambient AI. So I don't know if you've seen, but Meta has now got Ray-Bans where you can translate conversations. It comes up in the glasses. I don't know if they're planning to add that functionality to glasses prescriptions, but just imagine what the capability is. And in fact, we're going to have a chat about that a little later in this episode as we explore the things that seem a little bit like science fiction, but are already available for coaches to use. We're also seeing multimodal intelligence. So we're starting to see things like voice and tonality recognition and analysis. We're seeing vision recognition and also the capturing of biosignals. And again, I'm going to dive into this in more detail, but we have far much more biological information about people available to us as coaches than ever before. And we also have the capacity to do continuous client monitoring between our coaching sessions. Now, what's coming next year, 2026, is this concept of AI as an ecosystem. So this is where we can have ambient intelligence surrounding our clients 24/7. And we can start to engage in things like predictive interventions. So before our clients start to procrastinate, before they hit burnout, before something is derailing them, moving them off track from pursuing their goals, we can actually intervene. And also, I'm seeing the emergence of collective intelligence networks amongst coaches. So the sharing, the gathering of data. And I think this is really where we're headed next. And after that, we're going to find an era, the cognitive co-pilot era. And so this is where in around 2028 to 2030, AI is going to reach IQ levels of around 1600 plus. So that's effectively 10 times smarter than Einstein. And so at this point, AI will be able to model human psychology with unprecedented accuracy. And predictive coaching becomes really possible. So AI can spot patterns leading to burnout, breakthrough, or backsliding before they actually happens. And so we may start to see AI equipped with the functionality with the programming to be able to understand human emotions, not just simulate responses. And that is fascinating. And then by 2035, I think there's going to be two key types of coaches. The first type of coach is going to engage in AI enhanced transformation. They'll be thriving, they'll be partnering with AI to really streamline all the business aspects and the running of their practices, marketing, etc., but also to focus on honing in on those irreplaceable human elements of coaching. And, that's really essential that we still have that capability, that we retain that capability and that relationship. And then we're also going to have traditional technique coaches who effectively may become obsolete. Because when we think about things like goal setting, they could be replaced by AI because AI can engage with a client to set really clear goals much more effectively, much cheaper, and much faster potentially than a human coach can by that stage. And so I think the question is not whether AI will transform coaching, it's whether coaches will transform themselves fast enough to remain relevant. And I think the thing is that what we want to be able to do in creating that transformation within our skills, within our capabilities, is to make sure that we are doing so in a way that is adding value, continually adding value to the human coaching experience, whilst also being aware of and leveraging AI as a partner in that process. So we've heard a lot of talk recently. Sam Altman's been saying that we really are heading towards superintelligence in the not too distant future, certainly within this decade. But here's what a lot of people miss. Superintelligence doesn't replace human wisdom. It amplifies the coaches who already know how to integrate it. So I think the more that we can become aware of all of the different information that is going to become available to us and to our clients, and how to integrate it and utilize it to become even more effective as coaches, the more equipped we'll be to be successful, to continue to thrive in the future. Because AI definitely will become smarter than us, but it doesn't have to become wiser than us. And so coaches who develop alongside AI won't just survive, they'll become the bridge between artificial intelligence on the one hand and human growth, happiness, and potential on the other. And I think that's a very important role that we'll play. And I think the reality here is too that if you don't have the skills to coach at the moment, AI is not going to make you a better coach. You can have all the ingredients to make chocolate brownies and still not know how to bake the perfect batch. And coaching really is that expert set of skills. And without them, you're going to get half-baked results. And I think this is something to be really aware of, that, as coaches, we are responsible for our ongoing professional development, making sure that we're constantly sharpening our saw, learning new techniques, learning new modalities, learning new ways in which we can be the most effective coaches that we can be. So there's another reality check in here as well. And I know that most of you, or many of you, are already using AI in your coaching processes. But I think one of the things that I would ask you to ask yourself is, does this, i.e., does using AI bring me closer to my client or create distance? And I think there's a very real hesitation amongst clients to have AI used in coaching. And so we really need to think about, what are we doing? Are we enhancing our client rapport? Are we enhancing psychological safety? Or is the use of AI actually moving our clients further away from that coaching relationship? Does AI amplify human agency or diminish it? I think the thing is that we really want to make sure that we're equipping our clients not just to achieve a goal in the short term, not just to resolve an issue or a problem in the short term, but to really transform and develop the skills, the knowledge, the identity, the beliefs, the values, so that they can repeat that transformation lasts. And I think if we're just using AI in a way that gives a very temporary solution or a temporary change, then we're not doing our job effectively as coaches. And, we also need to think about our own agency as coaches when we ask AI, for example, for a list of questions to ask during an upcoming coaching session with a leader for example, we want to make sure that we're actually not just getting those out of AI and then asking them, right? Because there's no human interaction there. There is no analysis. There is no discernment. And again, you're the human, you know your client, and you need to make some decisions and have agency over the process itself, the process of coaching. Does this serve transformation or just efficiency? Is it the quick route to achieving a result without, as I mentioned earlier, creating that lasting transformation? And I think there's a very real danger that in using AI, we don't really pay attention to the output. It's very transactional, it's very in the moment, rather than having that level of longevity and even remembering things. I've had situations where I've asked AI questions or asked me to help me with something, and it's the outputs come out. I've used the output, and then I don't remember it. I don't remember what AI has produced, and that's because I have not created it. Now, in the reviewing and the editing process, sure, we get to that point where, we have that input and we have that memory of whatever, that output is. For example, it might be a social media post. But we don't really, because we haven't written it ourselves, we don't really retain that knowledge or that information. And I think the final question we can ask ourselves as well is, would I want someone using this tool on me? And, if the answer is no, then please do not use it, because at the end of the day, coaching is really about partnering with your client to find the answers. And I think we have to keep that human approach at the center of everything that we do. So, in saying that, let's now start to explore some of the current capabilities that sound like science fiction, but aren't when it comes to coaching and using AI. So I mentioned earlier the Ray-Ban glasses, the AI glasses that Meta has created. I think they're about $799 at the moment. It enables live AI processing. So wearing the glasses, you can translate conversations, and it has prompts, it has information coming up in your field of vision. So for example, if you're coaching, you could have AI glasses observe body language, the environmental context, and provide you with this ambient intelligence about any shifts in your client's state that you may miss. So that's, and that's really fascinating. I think the best coaches, of course, do that anyway. We use our sensory acuity. We're noticing those micro changes in our clients. We're paying attention to the words that they're choosing to use. And we're really tuned in and focused and present. And this will accelerate that. This will enhance that. The second one is biometric emotional intelligence. This is going to enable us. These are EEG headbands. You may have seen them around on social media, where clients can wear a headband and we can detect those electrical patterns in the client's brain, and we can see when a client's focus is wavering during work, or we can monitor their stress patterns throughout the day. We can see what the quality of their meditation or reflection practice is like. We can also check in on what is their cognitive load during decision making. How much are they having to really stretch themselves to make that decision? And so this really does give us unprecedented insight. So for example, instead of asking, what were your stress levels like this week? We can say to our client, well, I noticed your stress peaked on Tuesday at 3 p.m. for 90 minutes. What was happening? And that specificity can really help to create those breakthrough conversations, because we are not necessarily just relying on our client's own interpretation of their stress levels, but we've got the hard biometric data to support exactly when those stress levels were elevated, and we can discuss those. And this is interesting because it also means that we can track things between sessions as well. The third thing that is available is voice biomarker technology. Now, this is where AI is currently capable of analysing over 1,000 vocal features, where it can detect stress, it can detect depression, cognitive load, and it's far more accurate than self-reporting. And so this is interesting because as coaches, it means that we can start to detect and know when a client is truly experiencing a breakthrough and when they are performing for us. Now, of course, when you are equipped with the tools to be able to identify these things through programs like we offer at the Mindset Coach Academy, you can notice, vocal inflection, vocal change, tonal change, pace change, all of those things. But if you're a coach who's not equipped with that and those skills, this becomes really interesting. I do believe that you should be equipped with it because I think we should always be paying attention to our clients, of course, but it just adds that other layer. Now, the next one's really fascinating. And I think, it is about we can have continuous glucose monitoring or hormonal monitoring for hormonal changes. Because we know, don't we, that if our blood sugar dips, then our mood drops as well. We can become hangry, which means maybe we're not making the best decisions. We might become a bit more reactive, a bit more snappy. And so it means that we are not able to regulate our emotions as effectively. It affects our energy levels as well. And so this means that, for example, we may detect those glucose dips in our clients. We may help them to recognize that may not be the best time to have that difficult conversation, or it may be not that best time to start a project because naturally the body's rhythms and energy aren't there to support it. And it can also be where we put in a reminder or we help our client to develop a habit of having a snack at a certain time of day, just so that their blood sugar levels are evened out as well. The last one is around large context windows. So AI can now remember years of coaching conversations with perfect recall. And so every session starts to build this complete history, and it reveals patterns that may be invisible to the untrained human coaches, and they do become visible. And as coaches, we are wanting to recognize patterns in our clients' thinking, their beliefs, their behavior, their emotional frequency, etc. And so that really helps us to do that in a much shorter space of time than we would be able to do as a human coach. And I think among all of this, there are ethical boundaries that we need to pay attention to because, for me, the ethical boundary remains clear that these tools enhance our perception and the client's self-awareness, but they never replace the human coach's intuition, presence, and ability to hold that transformational space, which is what coaching is for. So let's just look a little bit about moving beyond the prompts and the bots that I was talking about earlier, because I think we need to start to reframe the conversation a little bit, because most coaches think of AI development as being prompt engineering or building a chatbot. And I think that's kind of like thinking that the internet was about building websites. The real opportunity when it comes to AI and AI enhanced coaching is much more architectural than that. And so, I think the very first area for this is this ambient presence coaching, right? So where we can move from 1 hour or 90-minute sessions to 24/7 supportive presence doesn't mean we need to be there. So, for example, AI could provide daily micro coaching through devices that clients already use, like a smartwatch, for example. What you do as the coach is you design the intervention logic specific for your niche, and then AI executes it with perfect consistency. So the clients get to experience you as an always available resource without you having to work 24/7. So an example of this would be a client wears a smartwatch and it tracks their heart rate variability, for example. AI detects stress spikes during a work meeting and then sends a brief audio message in your voice, i.e. your coaching voice, saying, I notice your system is activated. Remember our work on the 4-7-8 breath. Begin this now. And then data comes back to you for the next session, reporting in as to the activity that happened. And this is interesting. And why it matters is because behavior change happens between coaching sessions, not during them. And so this really helps us to be active and present when change can be supported in between meetings. And I'd like you to think about, how do you currently support your clients between meetings? Because this is taking that to a whole new level. The next thing we can start to do is we can start to move from reactive coaching to preventive coaching. And so AI can really analyze patterns across different client data streams, and it can start to, as I mentioned earlier, identify early warning signs of breakthrough, regression, procrastination, crisis. And so it can start to pre-detect a pattern before the client even recognizes that they're moving into that state, that unwanted state that they have. So, for example, maybe a client's sleep quality declines for 3 nights in a row. And we get this from smartwatch or Fitbit type data. And their email response time slows by 40%. That's a digital pattern, a response pattern. And then the vocabulary starts to shift towards absolute language. And what would happen then is AI combines these different flags and says, you need to know about this because your client is heading towards a little bit of a crisis or a regression or whatever it might be. And so it enables us to intervene in a really, really timely way. So there's a shift here from how can I help you with what already happened to how can I help you navigate what's emerging in the current moment. Have a question you'd like answered on the show? Or maybe there's a topic you'd love for us to dive deeper into? Reach out to us via social media or email us directly through our website. Your input helps us create content that's relevant and valuable to you. Remember, this podcast is here to support you on your coaching journey, so please do connect with us. We can't wait to hear from you. The third frontier is where we have this multimodal intelligence integration. So this is where we're really coaching the whole human, not just the verbal human. And, you know, as we run our programs at the Mindset Coach Academy, it's very much about this. It's very much about a holistic approach to coaching the whole human. Beliefs, values, identity, behaviors, emotions, etc. And that we're actually tuning into far more than the words our clients choose to use. Because we recognize that, you know, there's so much information that a client shares with us in every modality, the words they use, the voice, the tone that they use, the facial expressions, their body language, their physiological signals. And unless you are a coach that has been specifically trained in these skills, which of course ideally you have, you can only process 1 or 2 at a time. And AI is able to take and gather information from all of these different modalities and share it with you. So, for example, a client during a Zoom coaching session may say, well, I'm fine with that decision. The voice stress analysis shows that they've got elevated anxiety, micro expressions shows their frustration, and AI can alert you in real time that incongruence has been detected and recommend that you probe on that. And I think, you know, the best and most effective coaches have always been able to read between the lines because they're looking and using their sensory acuity to pay attention to these changes. But now we can also read between these biological signals as well. And for people who aren't trained in these methods, you know, you're able to have access to that as well. The next is the collective intelligence network. So this is where, depending on, and I think this one's really fraught with issues around ethics, legal issues, confidentiality, data protection, and cultural implications. But the reality is that we do have coaches who are, you know, inputting transcripts. We'll get onto that later. And what AI is able to do, of course, is to be trained in these transcripts and trained then in what actually creates breakthroughs versus what we think creates breakthroughs. And so, you know, there is the potential for us to be able to access these meta learnings from the global coaching data and be able to apply them to our own clients. For example, you're coaching someone through a career transition. AI pops up and says, in 847 similar cases, breakthroughs occurred when coaches addressed identity loss before exploring new opportunities. The success rate was 76% versus 31%. And then you can adjust your coaching approach based on the collective wisdom. And so this is interesting because we're moving towards evidence-based practice increasingly there. The next is contextual intelligence layers. So this is where AI becomes your infinite research assistant. So in real time, if a client mentions an industry challenge, for example, or makes a personal reference or shares a cultural context, AI instantly provides relevant research, frameworks, or contextual information. And what happens here is you're able to stay fully present, but you're also well informed, okay, in relation to that. So, for example, if your client says to you, my company's going through a merger and I'm feeling really stressed, AI silently surfaces in your peripheral vision and shares results from a recent Harvard study on identity during mergers and acquisitions. It puts up your own notes from 3 other clients who've experienced similar situations. It shares warning signs from organizational psychology research. And this enables you then to coach with additional wisdom and insight. And I think the key here would be to continually maintain your coaching presence without being distracted by that additional information that is coming into you. And the next thing is that we're going to see a lot more customization of coaching methodologies. So as AI starts to learn each client's unique response patterns, it can then start to design personalized frameworks, exercises, and interventions. And again, this is something that well-trained coaches and skilled coaches do very effectively already, because what they'll do is they'll design tasking and, tools and techniques and frameworks specifically for their clients based on, for example, their behavioral preferences or their emotional regulation or their values, and really lean into that. AI is going to be able to help us with that in a faster way. So, for example, if you're used to assigning the same journaling practice to all clients as a task, what could happen is that AI could then take the individual client data and determine what is best going to resonate with this specific client's psychology, and can adapt in real time based on their behavioral preferences or belief patterns. So, for example, if you use something like our ICF accredited Mindset Dimensions profiling tool, then you could input that data into AI, and then it would come up with, here are the best tasking or here are the best journal prompts for this client. And so you're handling the overall tasking direction, but AI would handle the tactical personalization of that tasking so that it's much more resonant with the client in front of you. And then the next thing is really around making invisible growth visible. So this is where we can start to measure how the client has changed in terms of the way that they speak, the words that they choose, the cognitive complexity that they're able to operate with, their emotional regulation, their belief change over time. And so this is where AI can start to really map the client's developmental journey across multiple dimensions. And it also helps to show progress that perhaps clients can't see in themselves. So, for example, AI may be able to then generate a map showing the client has moved from binary thinking, black and white thinking, to paradox holding. Oh, I can be a leader and I can be a follower at the same time. It also helps us to identify things like they're moving to more emotional granularity. So where before they may have described something as feeling good or feeling bad, they've got a really nuanced emotional vocabulary now. They're expressing themselves and their emotions far more effectively than ever before. And they can also identify things like a decrease in external validation seeking. If you've got a client who has a behavioral preference where they have an external frame of reference, which means that they really seek external validation in order to know that they're doing well, that they're succeeding, and get that feedback, then as they move towards more of an internal frame where they start to develop their self-efficacy, self-esteem, and they start to recognize, actually, I am doing a good job, or, I am a loving partner in this relationship, and they need less of that external validation, it can start to measure that as well. And then that enables, through these metrics, the clients to see their transformation more objectively. And it makes the invisible visible, which helps us then to sustain motivation. So everything I've talked about is available either now or will be in the next 24 months, but capability doesn't actually equal permission, right? So the question here is not can we do it, but should we do it, and how do we integrate it into our coaching? Because I think there are 5 key pillars that we need for ethical use of AI enhanced coaching. And the first one is that we continually have this informed consent and data sovereignty. So clients really need to understand what data is collected, how is AI using it, who else is seeing it, where's it being stored. You need to know this as well. Your clients need to have the right to opt out of AI-assisted coaching. So the standard to set here is I only use AI in ways I can explain in plain language to my clients, and I only use AI with explicit and informed consent. Now, please be aware that this also includes analyzing a coaching transcript for your own use and learning. This is something you need to be really, really conscious of. I'm hearing a lot of people out there recommending that you take a coaching transcript and you analyze it to create your marketing, create your offers, etc., to identify your own unconscious biases. Yes, that's really useful. You need to anonymize it, and you also need to make sure that your client explicitly consents to you doing that and knows what you're using it for. So the next pillar is transparency without distraction. And this is where you need to disclose AI's role in your practice. Be absolutely clear about when and how AI is being used. Because you're the coach, you need to be fully present in each session. And so the standard here is AI is the infrastructure, it's not the focus of the coaching session. The third is human primacy. So AI informs, but it never decides. You have agency as the coach to make decisions, and you remain ethically and legally responsible for all the interventions that you use. You need to ask yourself, is AI supporting your coaching or a substitution for it? And the standard to set here is I am the coach and AI is a tool I use. The fourth is bias awareness and mitigation. AI inherits biases from training data, and this can be really dangerous, especially with vulnerable populations or therapy or unconscious mind work is indicated. So the standard to set here is I actively question AI recommendations, especially when they confirm my assumptions, and I commit to remaining aware of my own unconscious biases and regularly ask for feedback on these. And the final one is around preserving the sacred. I fully believe that some moments must remain unmonitored, unanalyzed, unoptimized, because the coaching relationship is sacred. Technology serves it, but it doesn't actually define that relationship. Coaching is a human relationship. AI can help you think about your client, but it can never replace thinking with your client. It's that co-creative partnership that is at the heart of all coaching experience. And so the standard to set here is I know when to turn AI off. So AI learns from us. And if coaches unconsciously use AI, we're going to train it to replicate our blind spots at scale. We must develop our skills, our coaching skills, faster than the technology develops. And ongoing professional development is really key here. So, how do we become a next generation coach? I think step one is reframing your professional development. You don't need to become a programmer. You need to become a designer of intelligent systems that best serve human transformation. You need to develop the coaching skills as a foundation of human coaching interactions. I'm really passionate about coaches continually sharpening their saw, continually developing, learning new modalities, spending time in coaching practice and mentoring, supervision. So important for our ongoing growth, like what we offer in the Coaches Success Studio. So the qualities of next generation coaches are going to be that they're tech fluent and human centered. So they're comfortable with AI, but they're grounded in human presence. They're ethically rigorous. Coaches are continually asking questions about consent, bias, and data protection, not just pursuing efficiency. Very easy to think, I'm just going to do this so much more quickly, so much faster. But actually, have you asked for permission? Where's the bias? Are you protecting the data? How do you know you're protecting the data? They're continuous learners. They develop both their tech and their coaching skills, and they're boundaried innovators. So coaches are really clear about where the AI human boundary lies, and they communicate this with their clients. The hard truth is that AI won't replace coaches. It will reveal the ones who were never really coaching in the beginning. So we really want to develop our systems thinking. We really want to start to think about not just using AI in a way that is very linear, right? We want to start to think in networks. And so what I mean by that is in a coaching session, you wouldn't say to a client, you use the words overwhelmed 7 times this week. Let's explore that. Instead, you may say something like, when you notice that sense of overwhelm building, what else in your environment, the people, the tools, the systems, seem to respond or shift? So, what we're doing here is we're designing this thought network that engages our clients in thinking more broadly. We also want to make sure that when we're thinking about progress and we're using metrics with our clients, for example, I mean, you may use for something like a habit tracker already or a goal tracker without AI, but they're not reliable necessarily. And here's why: because a goal tracking app can show that your client completed all their weekly actions, or a habit tracker can. They drank all their water, they ate all their macros, they did everything, that you asked them to do, that they agreed to do. But in sessions, you notice that their tone's flat, their motivation's slipping. And so if you just looked at the tracker, you say, oh, great, that's success. You've done it. You've followed through. You've performed this habit 30 times this week. But actually, when you combine the metrics with the lived experience, starting to notice the energy, the language, the emotion, you can see that compliance, just because I've ticked a tracker, just because I've completed something, doesn't mean transformation. And so what we want to start to do is to integrate the qualitative insight, how they think and feel, with quantitative progress, what they actually did. We start then to get a much clearer and truer picture of growth. We also need to think about developing those skills to know when to use AI versus our own human intuition. And what we want to be able to do, I think, is to use AI to free up our mental capacity and our attention so we can be more deeply present with our clients, right? And that coaching presence is something that is unique to us as human beings, right? Existing in that coaching relationship, sharing ideas, co-creation. So the thing is, what we want to make sure of is that we are integrating those insights so that it feels almost like, a brilliant colleague whispering to you rather than that you're clunkily operating machinery. I think the other thing that we need to be aware of too is to develop your own philosophy. So, what is your vision for your coaching practice? How are you going to use AI? Designing some proprietary methodologies which combine your wisdom, your coaching expertise, and AI capabilities so that you can really start to think about how do you integrate, get those agreements with your clients? How do you remain ethical? And I also encourage, I think when we start to think of ourselves as leaders in the space and coaches who are really early adopters of AI in the coaching profession, it's really important to start to participate in or even lead industry conversations about ethical standards around the use of AI in coaching. And I think the thing is that, if you can take some time to sit down and write your AI enhanced coaching manifesto, start to think about what are your principles, what are your boundaries, what are the ethics that you hold dear, what's your vision, how are you going to communicate and continue to communicate and seek permission from your clients for whatever AI tools you use. I think that's something that, is very much worthwhile doing. So one of the things that I think we're going to see really is that AI becomes this invisible infrastructure. So it becomes seamlessly integrated into how your coaching practices work, right? You're just going to seamlessly integrate it. It'll be like second nature. I also think that AI is going to enable us to handle generalist coaching tasks through AI. And what that will leave us space to do is to really specialize, to get really unique in our niche and really deepen our expertise, which will make us more valuable than ever before. And also some new coaching categories are going to emerge. So we might start to see AI human hybrid models where the AI handles accountability and resources, and human coaches are the ones that really lead those breakthrough sessions. I do believe that humans will always be essential in coaching because I don't think AI will ever replace the sacred moment when a client finally speaks their truth and someone witnesses them. It's that holding space, that being able to be vulnerable and feel psychologically safe. The coaching presence that communicates "you're not alone" more powerfully than any other words. I think we are more and more as a society seeking connection. We're more and more going to seek connection. I saw something with Gary Vee where he said, in the future, he believes that people will be hiring other people to go for a walk with them just to even have that connection. And I think it is definitely one of the foundational aspects of coaching. I also think that humans will be essential because we need to navigate the ethical complexity of what best serves this unique human client in this unique moment with these unique values. And I think we have to be the guardians of that. We've seen some examples where AI has gone, very deeply into issues around trauma, and without effective training, without someone being there for that client, for that person interacting with the AI in an ethical, responsible way, in a way where they can quickly access or alert support if needed, right? And we don't want AI going rogue in terms of coaching outside of the areas, like moving into more therapeutic or psychological areas where it is not trained and it's not equipped, and even more importantly, where human presence is required. And I think the other thing that AI will never replace is that creative emergence that happens when two conscious beings explore unknown territory together. Because I think we've got to always remember that AI is trained. It's predicting the responses that it's going to give. It's predicting and it's finding the best answers based on your inputs. But in that way, it's the same as working with a calculator, right? I mean, very simple example, but I think there are these complexities and these nuances. And I think AI really can enhance our effectiveness as coaches, but it's never going to make us unnecessary. The coaches who thrive won't be the ones who resist AI or blindly adopt it. So on the one hand, resist, you won't thrive. If you blindly adopt it, you won't either. I think the coaches that will really thrive, they'll be the ones who ask the deepest question: how do I use these capabilities to serve human growth, happiness, and potential at a scale previously unimaginable? Because that's the work, that is the calling, and that's the future that we really are building together. So if this has been of interest to you, I'd love for you to just click the link below and join us over in the Coaches Success Studio, where we will continue the conversation. We have regular workshops, regular coaching practice sessions, and I'll be running a couple of workshops around integrating AI into your coaching, specifically how to use it in coaching to support your coaching sessions, both before and after and during your coaching sessions. And also you can sign up for the waiting list for our AI coach certification. Now, this is the world's only ICF accredited credential. It's created by me, Lara Young, and Evelyn Weiss. And this credential is, I guess, in two parts. So part one of the credential is around developing your coaching business. So, from identifying your ideal client to creating your marketing materials, to streamlining your processes in your business, to being able to create effective offers and lead magnets and things like that, really developing all of that out. And then the other side of it is about developing the core coaching skills that you need, enhancing your core coaching skills so that you can actually coach really effectively, partnering with AI. And we're going to be exploring how to do that before a session, after a session, during a session, without diluting your coaching presence. In fact, using AI in the way that I've described as a partner, as a tool with discernment, with discretion, with ethics and with boundaries, but also so that it is incredibly able to increase and elevate the impact that you can have with your coaching clients. And I'm going to be teaching you a specific coaching model that you can use in all of your coaching sessions, which is really going to deepen your practice, deepen your skills, and really help you to create the impact that you desire to create as a coach. I hope you found this session interesting. I look forward to your questions and comments, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now. That wraps up today's episode of the Mindset Coach podcast. I hope you found it as inspiring and informative as I did. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow coaches. Your support helps us reach more people and continue to bring top-notch content every week. Remember, you can always learn more about our ICF and multi-accredited Mindset Coach Certification Program, our coaching membership, and other training opportunities by visiting mindsetcoachacademy.com. Thank you for tuning in and keep striving to become the best coach you can be. Until next time, this is Lara Young signing off. Stay motivated and keep transforming lives.